Hey, this is an amazing church, this is. Well, hello. Today I have come, and I've been asked to come here many times by lots of different people, to Jevington. And this is Jevington's church, St Andrew's. At least I think that's what it said on the sign. St Andrew's Church at Jevington, a very old Saxon church. Well, the Saxon bit is the tower. We'll have a look at that in a minute. Jevington, let's just put it on the map. According to the pathway that's right at the base here, it's on the South Downs Way. And it says on the sign there, 3 miles from Alfriston. So a nice gentle little stroll if you fancy it. If you live near Alfriston, then obviously you probably know that anyway. But if you don't, we are, I don't know, about 4 or 5 miles maybe from Polegate, something like that, off the A27, and not too far from Eastbourne. So not a very far place from the east side of Sussex to get to. A bit of a drag from my house, but never mind that. It's a lovely church, so let's have a look round. Oh, I do like this church. I do like this church. So, it's made up of local flint and green sandstone. And I assume green sandstone because we're just north of the Downs, and there's obviously, well, I say obviously, it might not be obvious, but there is, certainly in Worthing, there's green sandstone just north of the Downs, and I assume that must be the case round here, hence the coins and things made out of the green sandstone. That makes sense. It's also, said Saxon, didn't I, at the beginning? It's 150 years, more or less, built earlier than the Normans came. So that definitely makes it Saxon. The tower being the oldest bit. Love it. Interestingly, there were 2 types of different churches, those that started with just the nave and those that started with the nave as a square building with a bell tower above it, or the tallness of it, and a spire. And that's how this started, as a square building with the nave below, pretty much. The other nave came a bit later, but the nave was below, and it was built as a tower because it was a defensive tower. It had this purpose, this secondary purpose, as a refuge for people in the community to leap inside and protect themselves from the invading Vikings, or the Danes, as we often called them. Obviously, the church has had later additions to it, so you don't just see the tower. Of course, you've got the chancel and then the nave and then the chancel. And the tower probably had a little, now I always get this word wrong, absal on the east end, which is like that sort of curved bit, which would have been the sort of chancel area, very tiny area. But if you look up, you'll see in the brickwork here, or in the masonry, Roman tiles, which has been used on some of the earlier windows, which have been filled in by the looks of things, and some flint, quite large lumps of flint in a herringbone style. And that's absolutely amazing. That really is a key to the Saxon masonry builders. So I did a little bit of reading, and it seems that the nave, the existing nave, dates from the 12th century. So they got rid of the apsal and built in the nave, and then the chancel, that dates from the 13th century. And it's interesting because often the bell tower is usually the later addition, but in this church it's the early addition, it's the first thing. And that's what I find particularly fascinating. through the gaps, should I? But here is the doorway. The churchyard is surrounded by this flint wall that goes all the way around it. On the other side of this little doorway, with a brick top here, and again some of that green sandstone keystones, and whatever you call the architectural thing for the top of the door, which immediately escapes me, always does when you're filming, is the other side of that is Jevington Place, I think, which presumably was the manor, and the lord of the manor would have had access, his own private entrance, to come into the churchyard. Whether the manor was originally Saxon origin, I don't know, but most likely from the Norman period, when the extensions on the church was put together. But I love the fact that they have their own little door and can swan in as and when. Interestingly, now, I don't know whether it opens, no handle on the door this side, so you can't access it. So if you're going to church, presumably open the door, you've got to leave it open, because once it's shut, you can't get back. I've yet to try the handle to see if we can get in, but I will do in a moment. Certainly taking in a bit of heat from this wonderful June sunshine. This is the east window, and when you're standing here at the east window, you realise actually this must be the highest point pretty much of the village, and traditionally that's where they would build their churches, of course, on the highest point. Although you look across here and you can see to the South Downs here in the east, and there's obviously a much higher point. I don't know what that is, about 300 feet, 400 maybe, but we come into the valley, and presumably somewhere round here would be a stream. The Saxons would have wanted their water from somewhere. And of course, when I say stream, I actually mean a spring, you know, a spring from the downs. Beautiful tree. I wonder what it is. Now, before I try the church door and may be disappointed, I'm going to nip down this pathway, because there is a Tapsell gate, one of only 6 churches, I believe, in Sussex to have one. Here we go. Look at this, a Tapsell gate. Now, I believe that these are unique to Sussex. This one's got a little bit of repairs going on. Tapsell Gate appeal. There we are. I want some money to help put it together. Tapsell Gates were the invention of a chap called John Tapsell, who was a bell founder and a rope maker. I forget what century he did it. If I find out, I'll shove it on the screen, or of course somebody in the comments can tell me. But what a beautiful invention that is. Damn clever invention, really, because it pivots on the centre post. So rather than having the whole thing swing open, it makes it very easy to open. You can actually open it with your foot, and of course you can have one people going this way, people going that way. And when it's shut, because of the top bar, apparently if you were a pole bearer, a coffin holder, you could rest the coffin on it. So it's not a coffin rest as such, but you could at least take some of the weight whilst you're waiting for a funeral, of course. But yeah, fantastic. John Tapsell. I don't know, there's something about just that quiet, peaceful, restful feeling about sitting on one of these lovely little benches in a graveyard. You're just away from the hurly-burly of everybody. Although there is, curiously, quite a bit of noise in this area. The road is actually far busier than I imagined. I don't know where it goes after Jevington. You come off the main road and then you sort of meander down through a couple of villages, one of them called, I think, Filching. Lovely name. I love names of places. Filching. You wonder what goes on there. Glad it wasn't called Pilching. And yeah, I don't know where it goes, but there's certainly a little bit of noise. But this is, other than that, you can hear the birds in the bushes and in the trees, and it's lovely. So I'm going to go up and have a look inside the church. One thing I'm looking forward to having a look at is the font. I read on the website about this particular church, and this goes for all churches apparently. The font, I think, is, I can't remember now, 12th century or 14th century, something like that. Yeah, 14th century. And there was a law, a canon law, that all fonts had to be locked. That was to prevent the theft of holy water. You can imagine that nobody probably believes quite like that these days, that the holy water needs to be protected. Here we go. Beautiful porch. Forget the date of the porch, but it's a later edition, but it's quite nice actually. I quite like it. What do we got? Oh dear, Sunday and Wednesdays. That's a shame. That is a shame, although I did suspect that we might not be able to get in. Most of the churches around here you can get in, but sadly this one we can't. There's a nice little picnic table here, which is perfect. I just didn't bring my picnic. I've got a cup of tea and stuff in the van, which would be nice. Could make a cup of tea and bring it out here and sit looking at the church. Well, sorry I can't go inside, out of my hands I'm afraid, but there's clearly lots of exciting and interesting walks to do in this area, and I know people have told me of some, so I shall be coming back to explore more. I have to say the heat of the day is beginning to get up, so I'm going to go and make myself a cup of tea. Thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to follow, like, subscribe, become a patron, support what I do, help me put diesel in the van, and I'll get to more of these interesting places. But that's it for now. Till next time, bye bye.